Hello everybody. In my previous video I've shown you a mod named Dark Interval. A mod that aims to recreate the Half-Life 2 beta, but adding a twist of its own and a style of its own. Today I would like to share with you a mod that is more widely known, called Raising the Bar Redux. A very similar concept to Dark Interval, but it has its own vision and things. It takes some aspects of the beta and some things it adds on its own accord. So the style is not a pure beta style. So let's not drag it out. Without further ado, let me show you what Raising the Bar Redux is all about. Just like the original game, there is an intro on a train with a monologue from Jimin. In my personal opinion, the monologue of Jimin in this mod is a bit too long-winded. It feels to me that he is explaining too much. In the original game, the monologue was a bit more cryptic and brief, and it made you think a little bit on what it meant.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. You've been waiting for quite some time now. Not that the passage of time has held much meaning for you, but elsewhere things have been a bit complicated. Reality has a curious manner of advancement. Wouldn't you agree? Do not be concerned with what you see. We're not really here. Not yet. 10 years is a long time, Mr. Freeman. A lifetime for some. Events change and people grow complacent. They've forgotten the happenings of the past. The scars have healed, and the sense of pride has all but vanished. You, however, have not forgotten. You remember your friends. You remember the feeling of freedom. You remember the sky. It was no time at all for you. In times of trouble, man has always looked for someone to emulate, an initiator. Climb aboard, Mr. Freeman. It's time to wake up.
After the monologue, just like in the original game, we start on a train. As we arrive to City 17 on the train, we can see the stark difference between the original game and the mod. We see around us dark and cloudy skies and a big metropolis. This is very similar to concept art available from the beta builds. A very atmospheric view. As I exited the train, I immediately started to look around and how different it is from the original. They really have nailed the atmosphere of this oppressive and dark world from the beta. You can see around you metro cops and civilian workers. As we go down into the train station, we can see closely the metro cops. The models used for the metro cops here are not from the beta and are not inspired by the beta. These models are a personal vision of the developers for the world they are creating here. When I first saw them, I don't think I really much liked them. But with time they grew on me. All the Combine soldiers and also every other NPC in the mod has been changed. Their models are different from those that we see in the original game. Some designs I'm okay with, Some designs, I don't think they should have changed them that much. Personally, I don't really like how most of the Combine units look. It reminds me too much of Killzone. But it's just a personal opinion, a personal preference, and a matter of taste. I guess I just like the uniqueness of Valve's designs when it came to the Combine. The civilians and the workers were also changed. The workers wear green overalls and civilians wear their blue uniforms, with some changes to the design. Here are some comparisons between the original game and the mod. If I am to describe the style of this game, I would say it reminds me of a pretty obscure thing. It reminds me of an album cover from a band called A Perfect Circle. The metro station is completely changed. It got expanded dramatically. Just like in the release, as we exit to the train station, we can hear Breen, the administrator of Earth.
Honestly, I don't really like Taco Bell that much. There are just so many fine bitches at the one. Welcome.
But here it is no longer Breen, but the console. Just like in the concepts of the beta, the console is a bold, dictator-like figure, with a more conventional look, strict and formal. His voice, the speech he gives, and his demeanor is completely different from what Breen's was. He has a more intimidating aura to him.
Greetings, citizens. You have arrived within the walls of City 17, having been relocated to one of the finest remaining industrial centers. City 17's manufacturing yield is such that my administration within the Citadel was established here. Whilst your work detail is organized, you will find the relevant environmental gear provided by your overseers. Remember, the true citizen serves their duty to the Combine and to your cause.
Upon exiting, we see the train station square that we can see also in the original game. Most of the scenes that play out in the original game play out here. Their order is changed. We see the Combine vehicles have a very different style from the original ones, but the Combine walls and technology kept mostly the same. I wonder if they're gonna change the style of the Combine buildings, or they're gonna keep this mixed style of the release and beta. In this chapter we mostly walk around and try to find our next path to follow. We encounter a resistance member that gets arrested briefly after we met, while he tried to open a path for us. Then we're on our own to find our way. As we walk around, we see a lot of custom-made posters for the mod placed around City 17. Most of them hold up a good cohesive style in my opinion, and are a great addition to the overall vibe of this mod. As most of you have noticed, they kept the original layout partially, while adding some influence from the beta and some additions of their own. At times it feels monumental, the place itself feels big, but at certain areas and certain places it feels too cramped, too small. That's just my own 2 cents about the level design. Somewhere it felt cohesive and somewhere it felt less so. On our way we encounter a military parade, where we see the different units of the Combine, and some of the new designs that they have. As you can see, there is one big robot thing. This might be their rendition of the synth soldier. A criticism of mine in the metro outdoors area are redundant paths. Redundant alleyways that we encounter that lead nowhere. Maybe they have some purpose, I don't really know what the purpose is. Maybe it's just the devs trying to let you explore a little bit more. But it did cause a problem, where I was wandering around trying to find the next place to go. We go through apartments. When the original game, that's where the Combine started chasing you. Here you just go through them without any resistance. After the apartments we enter the sewers, where we see for the first time the cremator doing his job, burning stuff. He is not hostile towards us, probably doesn't recognize us as a threat, yet. Upon exiting the sewers we're in the streets again. We see a rebellion unfolding. A bunch of civilians torch a Combine vehicle and get shot in return. Eventually, our wandering is halted by Combine soldiers beating the shit out of us and then capturing us. Unlike the original game, this doesn't happen in the apartments building. It happens as we just wander around and they randomly capture us. After getting a facelift from the Combine police, we wake up in a jail cell and escorted out by another cop. This cop is Barney from Black Mesa. His voice sounds weird. I'm not gonna be harsh on the voice acting, it's a mod after all. But when he started speaking, it made me chuckle.
About that beer I owed you. It's me, Gordon. Barney from Black Mesa. Oh, man. I'd love to catch up on everything now, Gordon, but we need to get you out of here first.
On our way to Kleiner's lab, we go through the industrial zone. And the industrial zone has a lot of concept art and a lot of beta footage and pictures of it, and is recreated here pretty well. It looks really good. There's ash falling from above that creates a great atmosphere. I like this area a lot. In fact, when I was walking around, it reminded me of Silent Hill. And Silent Hill has a great atmosphere. In the industrial zone, we see a few places that are prominently seen in beta concept art. We see a combine factory, also referred to as the stenographer's chasm, with nightmarish working conditions, where workers are forced to sit suspended above a chasm. This place, by its design, shows how ruthless the combine are. Another feature of the industrial zone is the cremator factory. In this factory, also named Child Factory, children are preparing cremator heads for a processing machine while being watched by a metro cop. In the beta concept, it was to be seen from the street, then from above a catwalk, but never directly accessed. After wandering around the industrial zone, we approach a body shop. Under a vehicle, we see a tunnel leading into more sewers. Emerging from the sewers, we walk through the factories and some dilapidated ruins until we see Barney once again. Barney leads us into Kleiner's lab. Kleiner's lab is in a lot of ways similar to the released version and also very different. As you noticed, Alex is not present at this moment in the game. For now, it's only Kleiner and Barney. We meet Alex and Eli much further into the story. The sequence with the head crab Lamar is also present here. Kleiner leads us to the suit. The suit, instead of being in its original place, is now inside the room where the teleporter should be. The teleporter is not there anymore. The suit is inside the beverage machine, turned into a station for the armor. A very creative choice that also shows that Kleiner has to make do with what he has, with his limited resources. The teleporter is in a different room, and the teleporter itself is an entirely different model and works differently than in the released version of Half-Life 2. Before we enter the teleporter itself, Kleiner contacts Kraken Base. Kraken is described as an undersea resistance research base where Elena Mossman acted as director of the group of research scientists working there. Kraken Base was cut from the game, following major revisions to the storyline that excised the trip to the Arctic regions, including the Borealis and the weather control station. Elena Mossman evolved into Judith Mossman, and her teleporter sequence was shifted to Black Mesa East. As you can see in the footage, Elena Mossman has also a different model than Judith Mossman, that we all know and not so love. As we try to teleport ourselves to Kraken Base, everything goes wrong, just like in the released version. We teleport around and then we arrive again in Kleiner's lab. We see Barney attending Kleiner as he is injured from the damage caused by the teleporter. We are forced to go by ourselves to Eli's lab. We must go through the streets of City 17. Our current destination is gonna be the Manhack arcade building. After Kleiner's lab, we get our first taste of combat. We get a pistol in this construction area and we start blasting. The pistol itself not only looks different, but it also has an alternate fire mode. This alternate fire mode is burst fire, useful only in very close quarters, because it's very inaccurate. This mechanic is completely original to raising the bar redux. I found it to be mostly effective against Manhacks. Most of the combat in these areas up until the Manhack arcade are gonna be in large areas. There's mostly gonna be big gaps that you have to close between you and your enemies. The layout is very different to the original game. You're gonna be hopping from cover to cover more often here. It's gonna be a little bit more tactical. It's still possible to full sprint to the enemy and spray him down. I've done it a lot of times in this playthrough, but at the beginning when you don't have that much ammo, you will need to take more cover. While we fight through the streets of City 17, there's a chopper actively hunting us down. Eventually running through the streets, we're gonna encounter the Breamcast, inspired by the original beta concept art. When we get to the central plaza of the city, we're gonna fight the chopper. The chopper fight is pretty easy, you just gotta gun him down with a stationary turret and he runs away. Something to note here is that during the fight with the Combine in the plaza, my game crashed once. But it was only a one-time occurrence, that didn't happen again. We fight our way to the Manhack arcade, where there is a little boss fight with two cremators. After defeating them and walking around a bit not knowing what to do, I found a power source and destroyed it. And now we can get inside the arcade itself. Things to note, the combat in the mod is very fun. The open spaces, the hopping from cover to cover, I didn't expect it to be that fun, but it was. It was a great experience. A criticism of mine is that the level design needs to be more cohesive. This is more from a design standpoint of how it looks, how it feels. There's too many paths that lead nowhere. Side note, I also got an incinerator from the cremators, but completely forgot about it. The Manhack Arcade. The Manhack Arcade is a combined establishment in City 17 that was cut from Half-Life 2, located at the end of the business and commercial district between City 17 train station and Kleiner's lab. It was to be visited during the first chapters of the game. There, citizens were to be seen playing video games centered around piloting manhacks, tracking fleeing human targets for points, unaware of the fact that the manhacks they were controlling were actually killing fugitive citizens in real life. This rendition of the Manhack arcade feels very cramped. This is not a criticism, merely an observation. While we're going through the Manhack arcade, a thing to note is that there is no one playing in the arcade. It's completely abandoned. The roof is leaking and it looks dilapidated. We fight our way through the corridors of the arcade and we start to reach its exit. The arcade is a very brief section. We don't stay here too long. We can see the playing station for the manhacks inside, looking just like the beta concepts. As we start to exit the Manhack arcade, we start to hear some concerning sounds of screams and groans that are not human. We see turrets set up in hallways, and the hallways themselves blocked. The Combine surely concerned about something in these tunnels. We slowly approach some underground ruins and encounter zombies. Only thing different about the zombies here is their model. Everything else is the same. By this stage we already left the arcade. Between us and the next section there is a flooded room that is also electrified. We need to turn off the electricity in order to progress. In a room nearby we can see a vortigaunt inside a pod. We turn off the pod and the electricity stops. It's demonstrated that the Combine uses vortigaunts as a power source. Walking through dingy hallways with pipes, we arrive at the canals and see some familiar enemies. Bull squids. Not seen in the released version of Half-Life 2. It's also where we encounter barnacles. The section of the barnacles could benefit from making the surface slippery, like they were in the original game, because here you can just dodge them pretty easily. In this section of the mod is where we also introduced to a new weapon, the AK-47, also designated AR-1. The AK is a cut content from the beta. It was originally planned to be added. It can be spawned in the playable beta by a console command, but never made it into the release. A mechanic present with this weapon is that the longer you spray with it, the slower it starts to fire, so it's better to burst fire or tap fire. It is a powerful weapon that lays out Metro Cops very quickly. Another addition on top of that is also a re-emergent enemy from the first game, the Hound Eye. Is a creature from Half-Life 1 that can create a sonic blast when it gets close to the player. Not long after that is the first time we encounter a squad of regular combat grunts. They are more beefy than the Metro Cops, and the AK doesn't dispatch of them as quickly. An interesting thing to note, the civilians up until now are not aware of who you are, and also run away from Gordon. It seems that by now they still don't know who you are and what's your agenda, so civilians also hide or run from Gordon. And now we're slowly approaching to the boat section. Different to the original game is that the boat is not a resistance made one. The boat is clearly a combine built machine. The boat section is pretty different from what we see in the released version, just like every other level before it. I have some criticism towards it. Sometimes there's too much clutter in the way, and you get snugged on it too much, which takes out the fun of driving around fast and shooting stuff. It's especially bad in the section where you get the weapon on the boat. You constantly need to maneuver, or you get snugged on things and get damaged a lot. We are also hunted by a chopper, just like in the original game. A difference here that the chopper is not dropping off any bombs on you. The boss fight against the chopper is pretty straightforward and easy, and there's nothing really to add to it. Eventually, we halt, and we get to a cave. This cave leads us to Alex and Eli's lab. As you approach the lab, you are greeted by Alex and her new pet, named Sketch, companion of Eli that was caught during development. Sketch was suggested during the first year of development, when dog was just a rough idea and belonged to Eli only. She was to have a long hypodermic teeth that could apparently kill. She was to be met in the first time when Gordon was to meet Alex at the air exchange after his train crashed. She was later merged with Dog as Alex's pet, while Kleiner ended up as the character owning a female pet alien, the headcrab Lamar. Dog can talk. He responds in voice lines from various media. Here he is adding his own 2 cents to the dialogue from Eli and Alex.
We will. Just about time we dusted off that old theoretical physics degree, right, Gordon? Those green dust devils, too.
Monstrous creature, sworn to kill and destroy.
Dog's design looks very cool and fits the tone of the mod. His design here is even better than the original released version, in my opinion. As you have noticed, Alex looks quite different. This is how she looked in the original view in the earliest drafts of Half-Life 2. Alex's earliest known model from 2002 consists of a green jacket with a white fur collar and a blue-green bodysuit, and streaks of red hair in her otherwise dark hair. The streaks are still present in the final model, but toned down, first seen in the Half-Life 2 trailer for E3 2002.
Gordon, snap out of it. You're staring at me again.
This model is also featured in Raising the Bar book. This is also where we meet Eli and his new design. We are allowed to walk around the lab and interact with several things. Eli will tell us a little bit of lore and story about the thing we interact with. From here, it's all familiar. We get the gravity gun that is also different, play around with it, and get ambushed by the Combine. There will be a short sequence where we need to defend Alex from the Combine while she opens a door. She gives her pistol to us and we can use it for a while before giving it back. In this mod there's sections where certain characters will give you unique weapons so you can use them for a short while. In the vanilla version you have no access for Alex's gun and any other unique gun. After the ambush we lose all our gear and go to Ravenholm butt naked, only with our gravity gun. We don't get our standard entrance to Ravenholm. Instead, it's more reminiscent of the 2003 E3 showcase of Ravenholm. The original idea behind the town was to demonstrate the Source Engine's physics capabilities. Even in the E3 demo, physics were a major focus. Early on, placeholder names like Fizztown, short for Physics Town, reflected this emphasis. The earliest maps of Ravenholm were filled with traps and originally set before Eli's lab. However, in the retail version, Ravenholm comes after Eli's lab, serving as a playground for the newly acquired gravity gun. There's an intriguing moment in this mod's version of Ravenholm. You come across the body of a Metro cop, and his radio crackles as somebody on the other side tries to contact him.
Please respond. This is Outpost Delta requesting shipment. Please respond. Over. What are you doing? Trying to get a hold of 284048. This unit is sent out to Ravenholm, but they aren't responding. Why aren't they responding? If you've read the reports on Ravenholm, know before, I'm sorry, I don't think they made it. God damn it! They should have sent backup. 2840, this is 1294, requesting shipment. Over. 2840, come in. This is 1294. Repeat, 2840, come in. This is 1294, over. God damn it.
The frustration in their voice when realizing the squad they sent into Ravenholm was wiped out adds a layer of humanity to the Metro cops, showing that under the masks there are still people who care for one another. Unexpectedly, there's a boss fight here, with a massive zombie. I couldn't find any reference to this in the beta materials, so it seems like a creative addition by the developers. The fight is intense, the boss is spongy and deals a lot of damage, and keeps you on your toes. This chapter also introduces Father Gregory.
I am Father Gregory. You have already met my congregation.
Much like in the original game, it's a trend throughout this mod. While the core aspects of the retail version remain, beta layouts and ideas are reintroduced. Ravenholm itself functions similarly, but with noticeable layout and visual changes. The atmosphere is excellent, capturing the dark eerie tone I've always associated with the beta. The cloudy skies and sunset, when arriving to the docks, transition to the night as you explore the city, giving an era a haunting aura. At a certain point, Father Gregory takes us to his church. Similar to Eli's lab, there's some room for exploration, and Gregory shares lore about the world and his experiences. One of the interactive elements is a table with a pot and a headcrab, which is a nod to Ravenholm, a cancelled game by Arcane Studios, developers of Dishonored. In the footage of the alpha build of Ravenholm, Father Gregory is shown making a headcrab soup. This feels like an intentional Easter egg by the developers here.
you are. Peculiar demons. I'm quite immune to their bite. This I hardly even noticed them. Illumination. I have prayed for assistance with this particular task, and tonight my prayers were answered.
In the final fight, you must defend Father Gregory as he works on repairing the elevator to the mines. He gives you Annabelle, his unique rifle, for this sequence. The fight is challenging and even a bit too much. Waves of zombies swarm Gregory, and if they deal too much damage to him, he dies. To make it harder, Annabelle and the shotgun take time to reload. And every time you gotta reload them, a big zombie attacks Gregory and kills him, forcing you to restart. Most of the times I died was in this section. Anyways, when the elevator is fixed, sadly you return Annabelle to Father Gregory, and the chapter concludes, as we head into the final part of Division 2. Upon entering the mines, we hear a groaning sound coming from the Combine Big Mama pod. According to the wiki, the Combine Big Mama pod was used to mass-produce headcrabs. This metallic structure was also designed to carry a gonarch, which would lay headcrabs inside the pod. Here we see the pod contains a gonarch and gives birth to tiny headcrabs. Our weapons can't destroy it, so we need to find another way. As we explore the mines, we notice a glowing hive-like rock formation that adds to the eerie atmosphere, something that is not seen in the released version. At one point we hear a Combine soldier muttering, "Does that thing ever shut up?" This line is particularly interesting to me, because in the retail version of Half-Life 2, Combine soldiers are portrayed as fully transformed biorobots, devoid of free will, emotions, or human qualities. However, in this mod, if they can get annoyed by a sound, it suggests that they retain some human traits, offering a different perspective from the original game. While wandering the mines, we find a new vehicle called the Digger. According to the wiki, the playable beta suggests that the Digger was meant to destroy a Big Mama pod and clear the path through the mines. We take control of the Digger, smashing through zombies, rocks, and eventually the Big Mama pod, bringing Division 2 to a close. I hope you enjoyed this semi-review and semi-playthrough through the mod. I thank you very much, and goodbye.